Hi. So we're starting our online workshop, handstand workshop, in 20 minutes with the Light Center Belgravia hosting it. You can still join. And yeah, I just felt like I wanted just to mention a few other things before we start the workshop. It relates again, coming back to the sense of platitudes. Platitude could be, let's say, everyone should be positive, blah blah blah, and it will attract positivity in their life, etc., etc. They're not inherently bad, and that's super important. It's like giving cues in a class. Maybe one particular cue is not inherently bad or good, but it's the context. If I have an idea of a sequence I'm going to give clients before I've even met them, and then I meet them and I don't change that sequence, maybe it will be a useful sequence for that one client, but maybe for another client it won't. And so it's like going into a shoe store and giving everyone the same size shoes. Yeah, some people, great, they'll be a size 8 and they'll be happy with size 8. Size 8 will be too big for me for shoes. So that's really important. Also, context is everything. So I can say, let's say, oh, your vibe attracts your tribe, be positive and then you attract good things. Okay, context is everything. If someone is suffering from depression or they're not feeling great, they're feeling a bit low, for them it's like trying to develop the experience of joy, so that has a resonance in their life and their experience of what's going on. If someone is generally happy, then maybe if some other feeling comes up from somewhere, it's quite useful just to feel it, to tune into it. And that's the richness of life. There's depth and the flavors. It's like in Tai Chi, it's like yin and yang. You want to try and have a sense of all of it, even though you maybe your dominant experience may be one aspect, but to know the tapestry of life, that there can be sort of much more, is useful. And context is everything. Let's say someone's in Hawaii, like they're saying, oh, I've just done my workout and then I'm going to the beach because I work hard, play hard, or Bali or whatever. The context is different than someone, let's say, working in a hospital in a city who's working 14-hour days, and the element of the positivity in that. It's not that there shouldn't be positivity in wherever you are, but in some respect. But the context just gives the flavor of the emotion a background, which is pretty useful. So in one context, you might like go, oh, that person's really inspiring because of what they're feeling this emotion in particular context. And yeah, in whatever context people are in, you want them to be have a sense of joy, but also just to have the context that other flavors at times might be useful, and not just for themselves, but just also to be able to relate. And I know people who are maybe wouldn't consider themselves positive people, but as a whole, but they maybe consider themselves realists, but they're very successful. So it's not necessarily that people need to be super, thank you, super positive to be successful, because that's one of the platitudes that goes around. Oh, you need to be positive because you only attract things. I know people who definitely would not put themselves in that bracket at all. They'd say they feel a lot of different emotions, and they're definitely successful from certain perspectives in certain aspects. Language is important as well. So, for example, the translation of soul, I wrote it down. In French, is ame, ame. In Italian, it is anima. Just got to make sure I'm not going to miss the workshop. But okay, but yeah, I'm still got time. So they may have different translations on Google Translate, but it also doesn't mean that they're the same word. As soul, what soul means in English to one person may be totally different to someone else. And Google Translate may translate certain language for someone else in a different language and give you, okay, this is the word, but again, it might not be the same meaning to someone, or the same resonance in that country. And so that applies to a lot. So the language is a big thing as well, what we mean by certain things. So again, it comes back to, if you bring it back to yoga, sequencing. People say that different sports have similar concepts, but they just call it different things. So let's say in yoga, maybe you provide a sequence that would be useful for a client. And then someone else says, well, in personal training, they have a personal training program. Is it the same thing? it may not be the same thing. The intention may be completely different. So to just say they're the same thing, just a different translation of language, is quite an important thing. Also in yoga, let's say someone creates a sequence for someone to give them a certain space in the abdomen to let the organs be soft and relax. Maybe they've been doing too much planche work or sit-ups, or it's made all the organs very contracted. Is that the same as someone who's posting on Instagram some like flowy sequence going, oh, I'm just feeling my body, and they've got a naturally hypermobile lumbar back, and they're just like, oh, la 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 la, and they've put together an outfit that is like saying, yeah, I just love my body, like, is it the same kind of sequencing? It isn't. It's a different depth. So would you consider the word sequence to mean the same thing in both contexts? Yeah, so that's really sort of the musing for now. And yeah, 40 more minutes to the workshop. So it's really difficult as well. What's been going through my experience recently is to know what you don't know. So to have a sense of sort of the areas where you may not have the depth. So for example, I don't have experience of speaking Italian and the embodiment that presents. So it's more than language. Languages are more than the language. They use also a different part of the mouth, a different way of expression. Maybe I use hands a lot, but there's a different way of being, a different embodiment, and it's difficult sometimes to know how a different an embodiment you don't know even exists, to give it sort of richness and depth. Yeah, so that's that. So for example, when I was a kid, I would, well, not always, but I did forget my keys quite a bit. So at a certain age, my arms were always quite pretty slim, so very slim. So I could get my arms at a certain age through the letterbox and put the arm around and always open the door if I forgot my keys and I didn't need to tell anyone. I was just like, okay, now I'm in. At a certain stage, the upper arm would get stuck. So then I would go and ask a neighbour for a coat hanger and I would use that. I still, in London, when I had a home, just randomly forgot my keys every now and again. I mean, it sounds like I'm always forgetting my keys, but maybe once a month. But sometimes it would happen quite regularly. And then I lived in a flat where it was ground floor flat, but you could sort of climb up in a sense. So if I found something around, like, I don't know, like an old rocks or something, and stack them, I kept the top little window hatch open, and again, I could get my arm in, open the other one, and climb in the window. And when I got older, I had the concept that there were buildings around me and maybe they were looking at this person climbing in the window every time they forgot their keys. As a kid, I had no concept of that at all. And I also probably had no concept that maybe if I was a different race or a different size or a different gender, maybe the police would be called and the consequences of that would be like more serious. So yeah, that's quite an interesting concept, which relates to language, relates to meaning, etc., etc. So yeah, those are the words of the day. See some of you in 10 minutes for the handstand workshop. Have a great day. Bye. And just like I forget the keys, I forget how to turn off this Insta live thing. That's here maybe.